In 399 BCE, the city of Athens put Socrates on trial for corrupting the youth and introducing strange gods. He was 70 years old. He had spent his entire life questioning people in the marketplace, forcing them to examine their assumptions, and generally being a nuisance to anyone who claimed to know something they did not. The Apology is Plato's account of Socrates' defense speech at his trial. Socrates does not apologize. The word apology comes from the Greek apologia, which means defense. And Socrates defends himself by refusing to compromise, refusing to beg for mercy, and refusing to stop doing philosophy, even if it costs him his life. 70-year-old philosopher on trial refuses to apologize, chooses death. If you are interested in philosophy about how to live with integrity, subscribe to SnapOldWisdom. We break down the books that force you to confront what actually matters. Subscribe now, and let us get into why Socrates chose death over silence. The charges against Socrates are vague and politically motivated. Athens had just lost the Peloponnesian War. The democracy had been briefly overthrown by oligarchs, some of whom had been Socrates' students. The city was looking for scapegoats, and Socrates was an easy target. Athens lost the war, needed a scapegoat, blamed the old philosopher. Socrates begins his defense by addressing his accusers directly. He says they have been slandering him for years, claiming he investigates things beneath the earth and in the heavens, and that he makes the weaker argument appear stronger. These are accusations often leveled at philosophers and sophists. Socrates says he is not a sophist. Sophists charge money to teach rhetoric and persuasion. Socrates teaches nothing and charges nothing. He simply asks questions. He walks around Athens questioning people who claim to be wise, and he shows them they do not actually know what they think they know. Walking around Athens, questioning the powerful, exposing their ignorance. He explains how this started. The oracle at Delphi once said that no one was wiser than Socrates. Socrates was puzzled. He knew he was not wise. So he went around questioning people reputed to be wise, politicians, poets, craftsmen. He discovered that they all thought they knew things they did not. Socrates concluded that the oracle was right in a paradoxical way. He was wiser than others because he knew nothing. They thought they knew when they did not. This awareness of ignorance made him wiser. And this is what made people hate him. Wiser than everyone because he admits he knows nothing at all. The young men of Athens followed Socrates around and imitated his questioning. This is where the charge of corrupting the youth comes from. Socrates was teaching them to question authority, tradition, and conventional wisdom. The authorities did not like it. Socrates then addresses the specific charges. Corrupting the youth. He asks his accuser Meletus, "Do you claim I corrupt the youth intentionally or unintentionally? If unintentionally, you should teach me, not prosecute me. If intentionally, why would I corrupt the people I live among? That would only harm myself." Using logic to dismantle the prosecution's case in real time. As for the charge of introducing strange gods, Socrates points out that he has a divine sign, a voice that sometimes warns him not to do something. But this is not introducing new gods. It is just his inner conscience. Meletus cannot decide whether Socrates believes in no gods or strange gods. The charge is incoherent. Socrates then makes his most famous statement. He says if the jury offered to acquit him on the condition that he stopped philosophizing, he would refuse. He would say, "Men of Athens, I honor and love you, but I will obey the god rather than you. As long as I breathe, I will not stop doing philosophy." Offered freedom if he stops questioning, he refuses the deal. He tells the jury that the unexamined life is not worth living. A human being who does not question their beliefs and assumptions is not truly living. Philosophy is not optional. It is the essence of being human. To stop philosophizing would be to stop being Socrates. Socrates explains why he never entered politics. He says a man who fights for justice in Athens will not survive long. The city kills anyone who stands in the way of the mob. He chose to live as a private citizen and question individuals instead of trying to reform the system directly. Politics kills anyone who stands for justice, so he questioned people instead. He also refuses to beg for mercy. Many defendants brought their children and families to court to weep and plead. Socrates says he will not do this. It is undignified and manipulative. The jury should judge him based on justice, not pity. Begging would insult both himself and the court. Refuses to bring his children to beg, calls it undignified manipulation. The jury votes. Socrates is found guilty by a narrow margin. Under Athenian law, both sides propose a penalty. The prosecution proposes death. Socrates is supposed to propose an alternative. Instead, he says he deserves to be fed at public expense for the rest of his life, like an Olympic victor. This is either sarcasm or genuine belief that he has done Athens a service. Either way, it enrages the jury. His friends convince him to propose a fine, but the damage is done. The jury votes again. This time, more jurors vote for death than voted for conviction. Socrates made them angrier with his defense. Found guilty, asked for a penalty, says he deserves a reward. After the death sentence is pronounced, Socrates addresses the jury one last time. He tells those who voted to convict him that they have not escaped criticism by killing him. Younger men will continue his work, and they will be harsher than he was. To those who voted to acquit him, he says death is not necessarily evil. His divine sign did not stop him at any point during the trial. This means either death is not bad, or the sign approved. He speculates that death might be a dreamless sleep, which would be peaceful, or it might be a journey to another place where he can question the dead. Death might be dreamless sleep or a chance to question the dead. Socrates ends by saying no evil can happen to a good man, either in life or after death. The gods care for such people. He is not angry at his accusers or the jury. He asks only that they treat his sons the way he treated Athens, by questioning them and making sure they care more about virtue than wealth or reputation. The Apology is one of the most powerful defenses of intellectual integrity ever written. Socrates had multiple opportunities to save himself. He could have fled Athens before the trial. He could have agreed to stop philosophizing. He could have begged for mercy. He refused all of it. Multiple chances to escape death, refuses every single one. Why? Because living without integrity was worse than dying. Socrates believed that virtue is the only thing that truly matters. Wealth, reputation, even life itself are secondary. If staying alive requires compromising your principles, death is preferable. This is the Socratic commitment to truth. You cannot claim to value wisdom and then refuse to live by it when it becomes inconvenient. Philosophy is not an intellectual game. It is a way of life. And if the way of life demands your death, you accept it? Philosophy is not a game. It is a commitment worth dying for. The trial also reveals the danger of democracy without constraints. A jury of ordinary citizens, swayed by emotion and rhetoric, sentenced the wisest man in Athens to death. Plato witnessed this and spent the rest of his life arguing that democracy is dangerous and that only philosophers should rule. But Socrates himself never blamed democracy. He blamed ignorance and moral cowardice. The jurors voted for death because they could not tolerate being questioned. They preferred comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. That failure is not unique to democracy. It is human. Jurors chose comfortable lies over the man who questioned them. Here is what you do with the apology. First, recognize when you are compromising your principles to avoid discomfort. Socrates had every reason to compromise. He was 70. He had lived a full life. Begging for mercy would have been understandable. He refused because integrity mattered more than survival. Second, practice the examined life. Socrates says the unexamined life is not worth living. Most people go through life accepting beliefs handed to them by culture, tradition, or authority. The Socratic approach is to question everything, especially the things you are most certain about. The unexamined life is not worth living. Question your certainties. Third, be willing to be unpopular. Socrates was hated by many in Athens. He made people uncomfortable. He exposed their ignorance. He did not care about being liked. He cared about truth. If you prioritize being liked over being honest, you will never say anything that matters. The Apology is short, around 30 pages, and readable in one sitting. It is one of the foundational texts of Western philosophy. Every subsequent philosopher who values truth over comfort, integrity over survival, and honesty over popularity owes something to Socrates. Socrates was executed by drinking hemlock about a month after the trial. Plato describes his death in another dialogue called the Phaedo. Socrates spent his final hours discussing the immortality of the soul with his friends. His last words were, "Credo, we owe a rooster to Asclepius. Pay the debt and do not neglect it." This may have been a final philosophical joke. Asclepius was the god of healing. Offering a rooster to him was done after recovering from illness. Socrates may have been saying that death is the cure for the illness of life. Or he may have been reminding his friends to fulfill their obligations. Either way, he died as he lived, questioning, teaching, and refusing to compromise. Here is the bottom line. The Apology is Socrates' defense speech at his trial for corrupting the youth and introducing strange gods. He refuses to apologize, refuses to beg, refuses to stop philosophizing. He says the unexamined life is not worth living. He is sentenced to death and accepts it calmly. The text shows what it looks like to live with integrity when the cost is your life. Socrates had every chance to escape. He chose principle over survival. That choice created philosophy as we know it. Without Socrates' willingness to die for truth, there is no Plato, no Aristotle, no Western philosophy. This video was created by combining human research and scriptwriting with AI-assisted visuals and production. Links to the book and related resources are in the description below.